Welcome friends, welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to do a recipe. There's a lot of stuff on the counter. There is a lot of stuff on the counter, and this is the simplified version. So I've got a stack of recipes on my desk. And some of them are from a particular group of publications, all owned by the same publishing company. And this group of publications goes out of their way to gatekeep or make themselves feel important by totally taking recipes to the point where they're complicated, overly complicates everything. They just make things so complicated. And a lot of that is done with their measurement system. So this recipe was no different. It sat on the corner of my desk. It's been haunting me. Every time I'd look over at it, I'd go, I really want to make that. It's just a coffee cake. It's a blueberry coffee cake. Sounds fantastic, but I need to clean up the measurements to make it more approachable. One of the problems that people have, I should get started. I'm gonna make the crumble topping first. So that's flour, butter, we'll get that in. So the butter is all cut up into little cubes. They overcomplicate the ingredient list by using crazy measurements. So in this instance, they asked for 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon. 1/3 of a cup. Just say 1/3 of a cup. Is it that hard to say 1/3 of a cup? And it's so close to 1/3 of a cup that it's just 1/3 of a cup. That's a measuring error for most people. Why do you say that? The next ingredient that they always do, and this is going to give them away, is in this instance, for the topping, they called for salt. I don't live in the United States, so I don't have access to the two brands. I guess there's two competing brands of salt in the US. I'm just going to use a fork to start breaking this up. You just want to sort of get the sugar broken up into the flour and the brown sugar, just to make a crumble. I'm using a fork. You could use a pastry fork, pastry knife. If you want to get your food processor dirty, that is probably the best way to do it. Or just get in there with your fingers. There's a point where I'm going to have to get in here with my fingers, and you just rub it in. And so the salt is kind of funny, because they call for, if you're using one brand of salt, they needed 1/2 teaspoon. If you're using the other brand of salt, it was 1/4 teaspoon plus 1/8 of a teaspoon. Why not say 3/8? Do people not know enough about fractions? Is that the problem? We don't know enough about fractions? And then I would counter that most people eating this coffee cake are never going to tell the difference that 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt is going to make in the crumble on top. Between the blueberries, the cinnamon, all of the sugar that's in this, the buttermilk, the vanilla, you're not going to tell the difference. And I'm sure that there's people out there who are going to say, oh, I can tell the difference. You can't. You can't. You can't. Be honest with yourself. You can't. Okay, crumble topping. Unlocked, complete. I'll wash my hands. I just get upset because food is a basic human need. And there's no reason to try to make it more complicated than it needs to be. We're making a cake. Why do you, as a recipe writer, need to make yourself feel so important by making it so difficult that the average to below average, or even above average, I looked at it and said, I don't want to make this. I don't want to make that. I don't want to go through that. It seems like a big problem. And then I had to break it down into something that's like, okay, it's not that big of a problem. So why make something into a problem that it shouldn't be? So we're going to make the cake part. This is another part that really drives me nuts about this particular type of recipe. They give the amount for the sugar, and then they tell you that it's divided. And then you have to figure out, well, when do you divide it? And how much do you take out to use somewhere else? Why not just tell me what's in the topping, tell me what's in the cake, tell me what's in the spread that goes in the middle. Like, break it out. Make the recipe accessible. I'm going to cream together the butter and sugar. While that's going on, we've got flour, baking soda, and baking powder, because, you know, and salt. We'll give that a stir. And as much as they jump through hoops to tell you about the salt over here, the salt here for the cake, no mention of the, the different brands. I think that's very funny. And so I didn't measure any of the salt. I just did a pinch of salt here and there. I'm using salted butter because I know in Canada how much salt is in a pound of butter. And so when I'm cutting off, I do mental math and I say, okay, it's going to be this salty. All of the butter brands in Canada have a salt level that's within, you know, microns because it's regulated how much salt needs to be there. So I can make that judgment. Next, we're going to put in 2 eggs. We're going to do the eggs one at a time. That is very important. Really helps with a better mixture if you do your eggs one at a time. Make sure they're fully incorporated into the butter and sugar before you put the next one in. And so I use salted butter because I know the salt content, and it's just so much easier for me to have only one kind of butter in the house. There is a sprinkle that goes between a layer, and that is cinnamon and sugar. And so we'll mix the cinnamon and sugar together. Okay, we also need a cup of buttermilk, so there we go, cup of buttermilk. Okay, so this really does come together quickly. Put in the second egg now. The things I want to get across about recipes are lots. A well-written recipe has the ingredients listed in the, to me, a well-written recipe has the ingredients listed in the order that you're going to use them so that you can lay out the order of your ingredients. RTFR squared. Read the recipe twice before you ever get started, especially if you're just starting out. If you're not comfortable in the kitchen and you're just starting out, there's no shame, and just sit down, read the recipe, make sure you understand it. It's something I have to do constantly because I'll often be doing, 4 or 5 recipes a day in here when I'm shooting. I get confused. Humans get confused. There's no shame in that. So stop, RTFR squared. Understand the recipe, and then mise en place. I know people get down on me because all they see are dirty dishes out on my counter. But if you are someone who is having trouble getting through a recipe and you're overwhelmed, measuring everything and laying it out in the order that you're going to use it is super helpful, and it makes your day go much faster. It makes the whole process much simpler, much more enjoyable. And you may have to stick a few more dishes in the dishwasher. Throwing in some vanilla. You may have to put more dishes in the dishwasher, but don't worry about that. Eventually you won't have to do it. You'll get to a point where everything will come together really quickly, and you're not going to be thinking about doing your mise en place because you'll know where everything is, and it will all come together quickly, and it'll be easy, and you'll laugh at your former self. But if you need the confidence to do it, then do the mise en place. And measure everything carefully. Just like I do. Okay, so blueberries. These are frozen blueberries. They were wild frozen blueberries. And I'm going to mix those together with some oats. Looking good. So this is mixed together. We're going to slowly add a little bit of flour. A couple of scoops of flour, and once the flour is incorporated, then we'll pour in some buttermilk, and we'll just go back and forth until the 2 are used up. This is one of those recipes that tells you to start with one and finish with the other, and you got to do 3 additions of this and 2 additions of the... It's not necessary. It really isn't necessary. Just do them back and forth. Don't overwhelm the mixture with one or the other, and you're going to be fine. A little bit of buttermilk, and of course, scrape down the sides of your bowl if you have to. And one last thing. We're using buttermilk. Buttermilk makes an incredible tender cake. So does sour cream or yogurt. If you don't have buttermilk, and I get that, a lot of people don't keep buttermilk in their fridge, don't use that trick where you put some lemon juice or vinegar in regular milk and wait for it to thicken and think you've suddenly got buttermilk. You've got a thicker milk and you've got an acidulated milk, which will bring the acid needed to activate the baking soda. Totally. You're going to lack the flavor. Really, what you're getting from this is not just the tenderness, but you're getting flavor. I would put some yogurt or sour cream in the bottom of the measuring cup, fill it up to the mark that we needed for this recipe with milk, whisk it together, and use that. You're going to get the acid that you need, but you're also going to get all of the flavor associated with it that you're not going to get by just putting in vinegar. That's my 2 cents. Okay, 9x9 cake tin, greased and parchment paper sling, and we're going to put half the batter in the bottom. Smooth it out into the corners. And then the cinnamon and sugar mixture that we made up, we'll sprinkle that in a relatively even layer. Sort of even. I suddenly want a Tiny Tom donut. The cinnamon sugar flavor or smell in the air is just incredible. Now, the rest of the batter goes on top. We'll just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Might not have gotten them half and half. Some of the blueberries. And then some of the crumble. This strikes me as a lot of crumble. The crumble to cake ratio seems really high. Maybe that's just me. I don't really like icing on cakes either, so... And then I'm going to put the rest of the blueberries on top of the crumble. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees, so we'll stick this in and keep an eye on it and see how long it takes. Everybody's oven is going to be different. That's something you need to know. This is a really good oven. A lot of people are always asking me in the comments why I just leave the rack on the bottom, because there's no hot spots in this oven. It's got really good temperature control all throughout it. And putting the rack in the middle is no different than putting it at the bottom. In fact, this oven has a solid metal shelf that will go in, and I can have a different temperature in each half of the oven. It is so great, so precise. So, 350 degrees, and I will see you in a little bit.
Ha ha ha.
Hey, Jules.
Hello, hey friends. Hey Glen, little after dinner snack. Woo!
So, after me going on and on and on about how convoluted this recipe was and how I tried to break it down and do your mise en place, and I realized that, what's that bag of pecans on the counter for?
Did you forget something?
Yes, the pecans were supposed to go in the streusel with the brown sugar and the flour. But the recipe was so convoluted and just... I hate this recipe, but it's at the core, it's such an easy thing. It's just a buttermilk cake with some blueberries on top.
So there's just too many, like the instructions were just long-winded and...
Yeah, so I will simplify it and don't forget the pecans. I'm expecting great things because...
There's blueberries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it's super moist because the cake is super moist.
Pecans, no pecans.
I'm a little bit goopy because blueberries. Blueberries, that's what blueberries do. I find absolutely nothing wrong with this.
Okay, I was a little concerned. You have this deep thinking voice, look on your face, and I thought, did Glenn suddenly eat something that didn't like in it?
No.
Like, I'm like, did you get a stem from your blueberries?
No.
Like what? Some leaf? No, it's a very, it's a very lovely cake.
So I think you could simplify it a little bit. I really do. That cinnamon layer with the sugar, you get that cinnamon hit is really nice. But you could put the cinnamon in with the streusel top.
Is it in the cake?
No, so you put half the batter in, and then you put on the cinnamon sugar, and then you put the next half.
Yeah,
of the
so it
batter
is
on
in the
top.
cake.
Yeah, so it's...
I kind of like it in the cake, though. Because, when you have, sometimes when you have streusel in the cake, all the flavor's in the streusel, and then the cake itself is just like, eh. As a little kid, I just ate the top, right?
I get that. So,
but it doesn't have to be.
no, it doesn't have to be.
No.
And so you could make this with any buttermilk cake, any sour cream cake, like the sour cream cake that your aunts that
yeah.
make with the chocolate chips on top.
That's funny. It never occurred to me to change what was on the top of that because in my mind,
it's chocolate chips.
well, and because it's my Aunt Eileen's chocolate chip cake.
Yes.
Done.
But the cake is essentially what this was. The two cakes are so similar that put blueberries on top of that and it would be amazing.
It hadn't occurred to me, but that's
Because it's
actually
got
a
all
really
the
good
same
idea.
It's got all the same components, right? And with this, it's got the cinnamon in it. It's got so.
Pick a fruit you like.
Pick a fruit you like. I know I told you.
What did he say now? I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
So before I took my instrument test, the written instrument test, Chris said, RTFQ squared. Right? Read the question twice before you answer it. This is read the recipe twice before you make it. Maybe even 3 times might help you not forget the pecans.
It might be something that you edit
Yeah.
into a format you like.
Yes, and bring out your pencil. Don't be afraid to change a recipe into a format that you like. Definitely. Into a format that makes sense for you. Make it easy for yourself. And then make this cake. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.